We'll now recognize the gentleman from Vermont, Mr. Welch, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for this hearing. I live, of course, in Vermont, and our issues are mainly on the northern border, and we're very fortunate in Vermont to have excellent relations with our Canadian friends. Mr. Wagner, I know you came up to Vermont and visited with Senator Sanders and members of my staff. I appreciate you doing that. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about the Nexus card. And as you know, my colleagues, that's similar to the border crossing card, and it allows pre-screened Canadian and U.S. travelers expedited processing in designated processing lanes. Applicants who are approved get issued a photo ID and an RFID chip, and they each pay $50. It's non-refundable. So this is a self-financed program. And it's incredibly important to Vermont because the Canadian impact on our economy is enormous. We hosted over 2.5 million Canadian visitors in 2011. Canadian visits accounted for $200 million to our economy, and the trade across our border contributes to about 19,300 jobs. And we're hearing anecdotal stories about wait times that I think are detrimental to the economic back and forth between Canada and Vermont. Some of our ski areas are dependent for 50% of their visits on Canadian visitors. We don't have specific wait time reports. That's not something that the CBP does. But we're hearing anecdotally that a lot of folks are waiting from 30 minutes to an hour. So this program, the Nexus program, can be a win-win because obviously it expedites the free flow and the quick passage. And number two, it reduces the demand on your folks who have a lot to do and little time to do it. So we need to get those Nexus lanes opened. And I want to ask you, Mr. Wagner, what specific suggestions do you have that would help us to get those Nexus lanes open and operating more effectively for Vermonters and for Canadian visitors?
Thank you. Yeah, Nexus is one of the key ways we manage the traffic on the border, along with the Sentry program and the Global Entry program at the airports. And like you mentioned, we know more about those people. We can take the time to go through a very thorough risk assessment of the people, including their biometrics. And when they do then come to the border, we can expedite the inspection process to some extent, and we can give them, where available, the designated or dedicated infrastructure for them to use by that dedicated lane. So really, it's a matter of us marketing it and getting the information out and being available to do the application approvals and the interviews and get people enrolled in the program. More than happy to work with your staff locally to come up with ways to market it better and come up with ways to be more available to get it done. But then it just boils down to what's the percentage of people with the Nexus cards using that port of entry, and can we afford to dedicate the infrastructure just to their exclusive use without really impacting too bad the non-members. So
well, I mean, that's a practical problem, and I want, there's no value in having a Nexus card if you have to stay in the standard line. And I know you've got resource issues, but there must be some suggestions you might have to let folks with the Nexus card be processed more quickly. Because if they have to stand in the regular line, they're not going to get the card.
Absolutely, and we have to get a higher percentage of people enrolled. So we've got to find where those people are and get them those marketing materials and get them that information, get them to understand the benefit that they get. The more people enrolled in Nexus is better for us. We look at a place like San Ysidro, our busiest border crossing on the southwest border. We do 35 to 40% of that entire traffic through those Sentry lanes. Well, all the time we save, we can reinvest to doing a more thorough inspection on everyone else. So it's in our benefit to do it. So I really look forward to working with you.
We're on the same page, but we'd like to make that program work. The folks who have the card are starting to get a little frustrated. That's detrimental to our businesses and to them. So I would welcome your very concrete suggestions on what you can do, what we can do to make that Nexus program more widely used and then more efficiently administered.
Absolutely. We absolutely look forward to working with you on that.
Well, can you get back to me with some concrete suggestions about what we can do and what help you might need from us, what things you can do administratively? I know your folks are working hard. We appreciate that. But
Yes.
we've got to make this thing work. for
Absolutely
Vermont.
agree. We've got about 875,000 people enrolled in Nexus. I mean, it is a key way we manage the border and how we segregate the traffic at the ports of entry between, the trusted traveler status, someone with just an RFID-enabled document versus everybody else. Much like a toll booth,
Okay.
where you got Easy Pass, Exact Change, and everyone else. By segregating that traffic, by virtue of the vetting status or the facilitative nature of their document, it just increases the throughput through those ports of entry.
My time is up. I yield back. I thank you, and I look forward to
I will get
hearing
back to you.
from you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now